recently bought a lot of 22 vintage historical romances. Some of them aren't actually vintage and some of them aren't even historical romances. I think a couple of them are paranormal romances, but either way, I bought a lot of 22 of these books and we're gonna go through them, we're gonna haul them, and yeah, I'm really excited. Honestly, I just saw this lot. It was for $16 that I spent on it, and that includes like tax and shipping. So I got this lot for pretty cheap. I am someone who doesn't really read vintage historical romances, but I have read some. I have really loved quite a few of them, and they are something I want to read more of, but they are also just sort of things that I want to collect just because I love the vintage covers of them. Like the bodice ripper clinch kind of covers, I think those are absolutely gorgeous. And so I kind of just bought these just to have them. I do plan on reading quite a few of these. Some I don't have as much of an interest in, but again, it was a whole lot of 22 books, so I can't really complain, but let's go ahead and talk about these books. First, I have Dreamtide by Robin Lee Hatcher. This cover I think is absolutely gorgeous. The like watercolor pinks and everything, I just think is so pretty. This one I believe is a marriage of convenience, but the hero believes that the woman he is marrying is mad, and that's what everyone says about her. But yeah, it is a marriage of convenience. This one, I just really love the cover. Also, since I'm not really super big into the vintage historical or romance collection type of things, I don't know which ones are like the good ones are like by the popular authors. So if you know and I have any that you really think are worth reading, definitely let me know. But this one, I just really love this cover. It is a little scratched right here, but it's still really pretty. Then I have The Lady and the Robber Baron by Joyce Brandon. This is another cover I think is absolutely gorgeous, and I think this one is one that is set in America during the 1800s. In this one, I believe our heroine gets married to this guy who she believes is responsible for the death of her parents, and I believe she marries him just to find out how to destroy him, and that just sounds like so much fun. Then we have My American Duchess by Eloisa James. This is an author who I have read a couple books from before and really enjoyed them, so I was really happy to get a copy of this one. And it also has this step back inside, which I think is really pretty. This one I know is not a vintage one. I believe this one came out in 2016 if I'm not mistaken, but still it's by an author that I know I really enjoy, so I am still happy to have this one. And I think this one is following our hero who is in love with the heroine, but she is already married, but she has this reputation of sort of leaving at the altar and never actually getting married. I think she's done it like a couple times already, but our hero is determined to marry her. Then I have A Bold Rebel Love by Christine Dorsey. This is another cover that I think is absolutely stunning. This one I believe is another one set in America, and it is following the heroine who is a spy for some side of the war. I'm not really sure, but our hero is absolutely in love with her, and yeah, she's a spy. She's trying to betray him and stuff. And I just think this would be a really fun one. Then I have Shauna by Kathleen E. Woodwess, and this one is following our heroine who is trying to get out of an arranged marriage. And so she ends up marrying this criminal, and he ends up being madly in love with her, but she was just using him to get out of this marriage. So she doesn't really have any interest in him, and this is another one that just sounds like it'd be really fun. Then I have Man of My Dreams by Joanna Lindsey. This is another author who I've heard of. I'm not actually sure if I've read anything by her or not. I might have. If I have, I'll put it on the screen. But this one also has a really gorgeous step back inside. And I believe in this one, our heroine is madly in love with this guy she believes to be the man of her dreams. But our hero is posing, I believe, as someone of a lower social status than he actually is, but he really wants to marry her. And so again, it just sounds really fun. And I've also heard a lot of good things about this author, so I'm excited to give it a try. Then I have Fool Me Once by Lori Copeland. This one also has a really pretty step back, and I believe this one is an amnesia romance where our heroine ends up losing her memory in a train wreck, and I believe our hero makes her believe that she is a teacher, I think, when in actuality she is a lady of like high status. And yeah, this just sounds like it'd be really fun. Then I have Promise Me Forever by Lori Copeland, and this one also has the step back inside. This one I believe is one where our hero rescues our heroine but then finds out she was running from the law. So he ends up like dumping her in some city, I guess, and then he has to rescue her again, and it's their romance. Another one, it just sounds like it'd be a really fun, silly time. And then I actually have 5 Teresa Medeiros books, so I will go through these very quickly. First is The Temptation of Your Touch, Charming the Prince, which has the step back inside, The Bride and the Beast, Breath of Magic, which is one where the title and the cover look really familiar. I'm not sure where I would have heard of this one before, but I definitely know I have seen this one around. And then I have One Night of Scandal, which has the step back inside. I also have The Ruby by Christina Sky, which has this pretty step back inside. I think this one is so gorgeous. And this one, I read the back of it and I'm still not totally sure what this one is about. Something about these two characters, like they're both running away from like the law or something. And there has something to do with a ruby that might have magical powers. Maybe, I'm not really sure. Then I have Vows by Margaret Moore. I actually hate this cover. I don't know what it is about this art style, but I really don't like it. And this is another one where like the back doesn't really say anything about what the book's about, just that there's this town that is very famous for people going there to exchange wedding vows, and the town's like keeping that spirit alive, I guess. I'm not really sure. There is probably a romance in this one, but yeah, it doesn't really say anything on the back, but I have this one. Then I have Eternity by Jude Devereaux. This one I believe is about this woman who sees this man who needs a wife like in the paper or something, and she ends up marrying him because of that. She believes that she's going to be like the perfect wife for him, and he doesn't really like her, but I think he has 2 kids who end up falling in love with her, and obviously they end up having a romance, but I have this one. And Jude Devereaux is another author whose name I have heard before. Judith McNaught is another author I have heard of before, and I have Once and Always. And I actually have no clue what this book is about because there's not actually like a synopsis on the back. It's just like a blurb from the Romantic Times. So I have no clue what this one's about, but I have it. Then I have So Enchanting by Connie Brockway. It does have this like little like half step back, I guess. But this one sounds like a lot of fun. It is following our heroine who is a medium, and our hero, I believe he is a lord. He finds out that she is a medium and believes that she's a fraud, so he ends up exiling her, and years later he ends up finding her again in exile, I think in Scotland, and then they end up having a romance together. Then I have Her Forbidden Pirate by Casey Edwards. All I know about this one is that it's a pirate romance. I do really love books that are like set at sea and that have pirates in them. I've never actually read like a historical romance with pirates, but I think I could really enjoy this one. I also have Carnal Sin by Alison Brennan. This one I believe is a paranormal romance. It's all about this like supernatural war that ends up happening. I think this might be like the 2nd or 3rd book in the series based on the synopsis, but I think this one has to do with demons and like the 7 deadly sins coming to life, so I don't know, maybe I'll give this series a try. I'm not really sure yet. Then I have Sword of the Highlands by Veronica Wolff, and this one is a time travel romance. I believe our heroine is like a rich person in New York. I think she's like an art curator, I think. But she ends up traveling back in time to the Scottish Highlands, and she ends up meeting our hero, and they end up falling in love. Then I have Till the End of Time by Judith Gold, and this one is following our heroine who is already married, but the guy she is married to ends up betraying her in some way, and so she ends up running away. And when she does, she ends up meeting our hero, and the story goes from there. But yeah, that is the last book I had to haul today. I don't really know too much about these books. Like I already said, I sort of just found this lot for really cheap, and there were a couple titles in there that I wanted just because they looked pretty or because I knew of the author, and I do want to try and branch out and read more historical romances, and I do want to try out a lot of the more vintage ones. But definitely let me know if you are someone who reads a lot of historical romances. What kind of authors should I be paying attention to? Like, what books should I like start reading? And also, would you guys like to potentially see a reading vlog from me reading some of these titles that I mentioned in this video? I would really like to know. It is something I've thought about doing, but you know, let me know if you're interested in that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and making it this far into the video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!